Alright, so let's get this cracking. So in this video, I wanted to touch on the true racial makeup of the biblical patriarch known as Shem. And the nations that sprang forth from Shem are known as Shemites. And some of those nations were known to be Ishmaelites, Edomites, Israelites, Ammonites, Moabites, Syrians, and Assyrians. And these nations were chiefly different melanated people groups. But if you ask a lot of these modern day scholars to give you insight into how Shem looked or how the Shemites looked in the ancient world, they're automatically going to associate their their physical appearance to the physical appearance of those inhabiting the Middle East today. But what they fail to understand is that the modern day inhabitants of the Middle East today is a mixing pot of different nations. These people, a lot of those people inhabiting the Middle East today are the recipient of admixture. And that admixture came from the Ottoman Empire. When a lot of the Ottoman Turks and the Seljuk Turks, a lot of them being Caucasian, they were able to establish a vast empire, spreading across parts of Southern Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. Hence why when you look into the modern day inhabitants, or a lot of the modern day inhabitants of those regions, a lot of them have a fair and a pale complexion, because they're the offspring of those Ottoman Turks that spread their seed when they established a vast empire throughout the Middle Ages within those regions. But even when you look into parts of North Africa, whether it be Morocco or Tunisia, you still see some of the inhabitants, despite the fair complexion, they still have curly hair. So it's still somewhat illustrating the small remnants and residue of their aboriginal features. And when you look into the ancient artifacts of the ancient Near East, the regions in which the Shemites were chiefly residing in, and you compare and contrast them to the modern day inhabitants of those regions, you will see that it's completely disparate. And throughout this video, we're gonna see that. But before we even get to the artifacts, we're gonna see what this scholar has to say about the Shemites. So this is from Manners and Bible Customs by Matthews Victor Harold, published in 1991. It says, physical appearance of the people. What did the patriarchs and their wives look like? The patriarchs and their families were Semites, the dominant ethnic group in Mesopotamia and much of Syro-Palestine. Physically, Semites in the ancient Near East had black hair, were short in stature, averaging about 5 feet tall for males, with a swarthy complexion, burned even darker by the sun, and a prominent flat nose. The examination of burial customs, the examination of burial remains, and a few surviving paintings, such as those found in the 19th century Egyptian tomb at Beni Hassan, provide us with this picture, since there are few biblical descriptions of an individual's features. So the scholar referenced the swarthy complexion and the flat nose. For those who've watched my videos, they understand that swarthy is in reference to a black complexion or a dark complexion. Then you have the flat nose that's characteristic of Negroes or different melanated people groups. Because when you analyze the Ashkenazi, who claim descent from Shem, they've always been known to have a hooked nose. So this can't be talking about them. Then it mentions a 19th century painting from an Egyptian tomb. So this is the painting that the scholar was referencing. These are Shemites. You can tell by the beard and the clothing. And Shemites during that time a lot of them were shepherds. When you read Genesis 42, the Israelites were referenced to as shepherds. That was their occupation. So you see these people here, the swarthy complexion and the afro with a beard. It says, the facsimile painting copies part of a scene in the tomb of Kudum Hotep at Beni Hassan. This detail This detail depicts two men wearing garments, beards, and hairstyles that identify them as people from Western Asia. You see? Because even during that time, you had a portion of Shemites that would immigrate to Egypt. In conventional history, they would be known as Asiatics. But anyway, let's go to another source. This source is from a 2nd century Israelite sage called Rabbi Eliezer, and his earliest works go back to the 8th century AD. So here it reads, Noah bought his sons and his grandsons, and he blessed them with their several settlements, and he gave them as an inheritance all the earth. He especially blessed Shem and his sons, making them dark but comely, and he gave them the habitable earth. He blessed Ham and his sons, making them dark like the raven, and he gave them as an inheritance the coast of the sea. He blessed Japheth and his sons, making them entirely white, and he gave them for an inheritance the desert and its fields. These are the inheritances with which he endowed them. You see? So it says, he blessed Shem, making his sons dark and comely. You know? He states that both Ham and Shem were dark. And in conventional history, Ham was known to be the progenitor of the Africans. He was the progenitor of the Egyptians, black Africans, the Libyans, black Africans, the Philistines, black Africans, the Canaanites, black Africans, and the Cushites, also known as Ethiopians, also known as Nubians, black Africans, or they were super black Africans. They got their name Cush based off them being super, super dark. Cush literally means burnt face. Even when you read the Bible, there's many instances where the Shemites were mistaken for Hamites. When you read the book of Genesis 42, verse 7 going down, you had Joseph, a Shemite, who resided in Egypt for a certain time period. He wasn't recognized by his brothers. His brothers went down to Egypt and they thought that Joseph was dead. And they went to Egypt because there was a famine. And when they saw Joseph, they didn't even recognize him. He was indistinguishable from the other Egyptians. And then when you read Exodus 2, verse 16 going down, you had Moses that went to the Midianite woman and they mistook him for an Egyptian. Then you go to the book of Acts chapter 21, verse 37 going down. You had the Apostle Paul, who was also mistaken for an Egyptian. These were all Shemites. Then the Apostle Paul had to correct him, saying, nah, I'm not an Egyptian. I'm an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin. He had to correct him, you know. So even in the Bible, it references these things. And even when you read here, it says, Luria reads as an emendation, black and uncomely. If our MS text be accepted. So yeah, in a different edition, the way it describes Ham is black and uncomely. So it shows that dark and black is being used interchangeably. Because some people may say, oh, dark is only a reference to someone that's tan because of the sun. No, it's not a reference to that. It's actually a reference to someone that's black. Now this source is quoting from an Arab who lived during the 7th century AD that goes by the name of Ibn Abbas. He was the cousin of the Islamic prophet Muhammad. And here he says, the children of Sam or Shem settled in the corner of the earth, which is between Satadima and the sea between Yemen and Syria. Allah made the prophets from them, revealed the books to them, made them beautiful, gave them a black complexion, and also gave them a black complexion with a light brownish undertone. The children of Ham settled toward the south. Allah gave them a black complexion and gave some of them a black complexion with a light brownish undertone. The children of Japheth settled in Saphun toward the north. They are light-skinned and very fair-skinned, you see. So again, it's saying that the children of Shem were given a black complexion and the children of Ham were given a black complexion, rendering their complexion somewhat indistinguishable. So even these Arab scholars understood this. And of course, they're attributing these things to Allah, their God, but for those who read the Bible, we understand that these things is from the Most High Yahweh, But anyway, let's move on. Right, so here we're in Genesis 25, and it's given us the generations of Ishmael, one of Abraham's sons. And both Abraham and Ishmael spring forth from Shem. So let's see what it says. It says, these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's servant, bore to Abraham. These are the names of the sons of Ishmael, named in the order of their birth: Nebaioth, the firstborn of Ishmael, and Kedar, Abdil, and Mibsam. So the person I wanted to get was Kedar, because we're going to see what his name means. So let's just see what it means in the Hebrew. It says Kedar, meaning dark, a son of Ishmael. It says here, dusky, of the skin or the tent. Kedar, a son of Ishmael, also collectively Bedouin, as his descendants or representatives. Now here it says Swavi, black-tented, tribe of nomads in Arabian desert. Then here it says in the Chaldee lexicon, black-skinned man. You see? And he was the progenitor of one of the Arabian tribes. And he was known, his name meant a black-skinned man. This is a grandson of Abraham, who is a descendant of Shem. So this is just more proof coming out of the Bible. Even when you go to Songs of Solomon 1 and 5, one of Solomon's lovers is described as black but comely. Let's go to it now. It says, I am black but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. You see? So it's likening this woman's appearance to the tents of Kedar, lending more credence to Kedar's black complexion, who again was a descendant of Shem. Now I wanted to get some information regarding the Elamites. So the Elamites were descendants of Elam, the firstborn of Shem. That's documented in the book of Genesis, chapter 10, verse 22. And this author notes the Negroid appearance of the Elamites. In Nature Knows No Color Line, research into the Negro ancestry in the white race by J.A. Rogers, published in 1980. It says, Dudafoy, also in his researches, says that the Elamites, who once dominated in that region, were Negroes. One of their kings is mentioned in connection with Abraham in Genesis 14. You see that? Now reading down, it says, Strabo, 30 BC, says the people of Western Judea were of part Egyptian ancestry. But, he says, although the inhabitants are mixed up, thus the most prevalent of the accredited reports in regard to the temple at Jerusalem represents the ancestors of the present Judeans, as they are called Egyptians. See that? So I believe Strabo was a Roman historian, and based off his perspective and his point of view, he came to the conclusion that the Israelites were of part Egyptian ancestry. And why? Because not only were they indistinguishable based off, well, I wouldn't say indistinguishable, but based off their complexion, they had a similar complexion, being dark and black. Also, he would have recognized the fact that the Israelites spent a large period of their history in Egypt. But they were captives in Egypt for centuries. So when they were held captive in Egypt, they obviously intermingled with the Egyptians. An example of that is when you read Leviticus 24:10, there was a Danite woman who intermarried with an Egyptian man. And even when you read 1 Chronicles 2, I believe it is, I believe there was an Israelite called Jaha who gave his Egyptian servant to his daughter in marriage. So those are just a few examples of the Egyptians and the Israelites intermarrying. So that's probably why he came to that conclusion. So reading down, it says, Tacitus of about 90 AD says, many assert that the Jews are an Ethiopian race. Look at that. So Tacitus, he was also a Roman historian. And we just noted that the Ethiopians, also known as Cushites, were what? A burnt-faced people group, because that's what their name means. Ethiopian means black, and Cush means burnt face. And they were known to be, and Tacitus says, they were known to be an Ethiopian race. So that's clear as day. Reading on, it says, for Romans to have taken them for Ethiopians is clear indication of their color, since the Ethiopians were definitely black to the Romans. And this is another source on the Elamites, and it's from the Hibbert Lectures published in 1887. It says the precise meaning of this expression, which is frequent in the hymns, is uncertain. It may refer to the custom of wearing long black hair, though in this case we should have expected the phrase to be black-haired rather than black-headed, as however, M. Dulafoy's excavations on the site of Susa have brought to light enameled bricks of the Elamite period on which a black race of mankind is portrayed. It may mean that the primitive Sumerian population of Chaldea was really black-skinned, you see. So this is where J.A. Rogers got the information that the Elamites were Negroid, because he read the works of M. Dulafoy, and he saw that M. Dulafoy came to the conclusion that the Elamites were a black race of people based off the excavations that he uncovered in Iran, where he saw a bunch of Elamite soldiers. And we're going to see the way in which, matter of fact, no, we're going to see what he saw. And, his eyes didn't deceive him, Before we even get to that, let's just see what this last source says. And it's from the same person, J.A. Rogers, from Sex and Race, Negro-Caucasian Mixing in All Ages and All Lands, published in 1940. It says, as for the sons of Ham being black because of a curse, we shall see later that in all probability the sons of Shem, from whom the Jews are supposed to be descended, were black themselves. According to the Bible, the eldest son of Shem was Elam, and the Elamites, as we have just seen, were a black people. You see? So that's all we need. That's all we need. So now we're going to view the excavations. So to finalize the video, I'm going to be playing a compilation illustrating several ancient Shemitic artifacts. And you're going to see that it matches up with the literature pertaining to what we've read in the video regarding their black complexion and Negroid appearance.